What's going on, everybody? We got to talk a little basketball because we got some breaking news out of the association. The Suns have finally done it. They have reached a contract buyout with Bradley Beal, sending him on his way, and apparently he is headed on down to Los Angeles to go play for the Clippers. Going to sign a 2-year, $11 million deal there. And just a lot of ramifications, a lot to get into about what this means for Phoenix as they now enter what's going to be a completely brand new era of this team. And, you know, at the end of last season, Ishbia promised that changes were on the way. You won line. Latest domino to fall now. So there's a lot of things that I want to dive into and hopefully not get too lost in the weeds on some of this, but there are a lot of things that need to kind of be explained. First off, the big thing that this does for the Suns, the massive thing, is this gets them below the second apron and it gets them below the first apron, which is going to do a world of difference of what they are allowed to do in the future. They're allowed to make more trades now. They have the mid-level exception. It gives them flexibility with what they can do with the roster. It does give them, a baggage of a lot of debt and money against the cap. Moving forward, there are some drawbacks to it, but they really needed to get under the second apron because they had been in it in back-to-back years. And as I've touched on before, they have the repeater offense where if you're in it 3 out of 5 years, all of a sudden you start getting hit with huge fines to the team. You can have first-round draft picks pushed to the end of the first round and penalized from that. And you're not allowed to make certain trades at that point. Like the restrictions of being a repeater offender of the second apron is devastating. Like it basically limits you from doing anything. You're stuck with your team completely. And they could not have that. It works if you were, say, the Thunder and you didn't really want to make too many trades or too many moves because you're really happy with your team. Well, in case you didn't notice, Suns aren't exactly happy with their team right now. They've been trying to make some moves, so they really needed to do this. So let's dive into first the contract buyout itself. Bradley Beal had $110 million-ish left on his contract. He agrees to a buyout that's going to lower it down to 96.9. He's going to give back about $13 million to the Suns out of what he was guaranteed out of that contract. Question is, why? That's a fragment of what the Suns are only getting a piece of that, what they're giving back. If you're going to buy a guy out, you would have loved to get a lot more back. Well, the reason is twofold. One, Bradley Beal wasn't going to give any of that money back. It's all guaranteed. He wasn't going to give any of that money back unless he had to. And two, if he wanted to go play somewhere else, he was going to have to. Because the NBA only allows for 15% of your salary cap to be dead money. So right now, with the way the salary cap is structured, that comes out to being about $23 million a year. The Suns already have, and as you're little, they have a couple of dead money hits already going up against the cap. So they basically have about 19 million, 20 million left of space of what they could do as dead money on a buyout. If Bradley Beal hadn't agreed to giving back some of his money, it would have come out to being about 22 million a year. That doesn't work. They wouldn't have been able to pay him that amount of money because the NBA wouldn't allow it. So he had to agree to give him back some of that money in order to them to be allowed by the NBA to actually buy him out. Bradley Beal shouldn't care. He's about to sign, apparently, a 2-year deal with the Clippers, and so he gave $13 million back to the Suns, but he's about to get $11 million from LA. So he's going to lose $2 million of his $110 million contract in order to choose to go play for the Clippers. Pretty good deal overall for him. Like, he's going to get a chance to go compete with the team. And for the Suns, it clears the decks finally of kind of this cloud that has been hanging over the team, the franchise now, for a while. The other part of this is going to be stretched over 5 years, 99% likely, apparently, from the Suns deciding to do that rather than just take the $50 million hit this year, 55, and the same thing next year and have it off the books in 2 years. The NBA allows for a stretch provision. Now, why would it be 5 years? Well, the NBA stretch provision says whatever's left on the contract, you times it by 2 plus 1, and those are the number of years that it will be stretched to. You don't get a choice. So if the guy had 3 years left on his contract, it would be 3 times 2 for 6 plus 1, 7. So that dead money would be stretched over 7 years. Bradley Beal had 2 years left on his contract. So it'll be doubled up to 4 plus 1, 5. So that's how you get to the dead money being stretched over 5 years. So rather than it being $55 million against the cap this year, after the buyout and what they agreed to lower it down to, it's going to end up being about $19 million against the cap, freeing up $30 million of salary space for this team, which is going to drop them dramatically where they needed to be under that first apron, and a sweet place to be with a team that now has a lot of young pieces. They're allowed to use the mid-level exception. They can make more trades. They have flexibility now. You're allowed to trade more draft picks when you're under the first apron. It gives them a bunch of roster flexibility. But it does have, again, almost $20 million of dead salary cap space, the money that they just can't use. It's just going to be handicapped with it. But needed to happen. They needed to get under that salary, that second apron, and they're going to need to stay there now for at least 3 years, because if at any point they do it again, they're going to get again hit with that repeater offender offense of 3 and 5 years where all those penalties are going to kick in. So they have to get under it, which they are, and they have to stay under it now for the next 3 years. Okay, get through this year, get a few more guys off your books, and you're sitting pretty. At a certain point, your salary is going to get pretty expensive once that Devin Booker extension kicks in. But for right now, much needed. So that's why it's 5 years. That's the effect it's going to have on the salary cap and kind of what this team is going to be able to do and the flexibility that's going to give them. It's also going to free up what one of the best parts about this for the Suns should be. It's going to free up 30 minutes, 35 minutes a night of what you would basically be giving to Bradley Beal to now Ryan Dunn is going to get a lot more run. Now you're going to get a chance to play some of your younger pieces, get them experience and get them reps. And all of a sudden, this team that last year we said had leadership problems, that at times seemed to kind of quit on the coach, kind of quit on each other, had games where they were just getting blown out and just had zero heart or effort. Now, all of a sudden, we go from that team that was talented and disappointing and frustrating to watch to a team that probably not nearly as talented, but is younger, is a team that's going to be really fun to watch, that's going to have a lot of energy, and a team that can be very easy to get behind and enjoy watching. And it's going to be a team that's going to be good basketball to kind of actually take in. Whereas last year, I mean, let's be honest, that jigsaw puzzle did not work out. All the pieces they threw out there, that was not only not fun to watch, that was tough to watch at times. There was just a bunch of random talented pieces that they did not like each other, and it did not work out well out there. But like I said, the decks seem to be cleared now. That was kind of another one of those big domino pieces. So now it's about trying to fill out the rest of the roster with what cap space you got. Try and stay under that first apron if you can do it. And then run out a bunch of your young guns. Let these guys get reps and experience and play and minutes under their belt. Kaman Malawak is going to need to play a lot of NBA and develop. This is a guy that works hard. This guy that everybody that you listen to says has all the right, attributes of a guy that can make it in this league. He's got to play more. He's a young guy when it comes to basketball. He didn't play until he was like 16. So you give him a chance to kind of really get some reps. You get Ryan Dunn out there a little bit more. You see kind of what maybe you got out of Colin Gillespie as he continues to improve. This is probably going to be a little frustrating time for Devin Booker, a guy that has, been in the league for a while, and he's got aspirations of winning championships and competing for them. They're not going to be doing that this year. They're not going to be doing that next year. Probably not the year after that. So you're talking 3 years of his time in the NBA and kind of in his prime. It doesn't look like they're going to be in a position to be competing for a title. That's a big pill to swallow. Now, the flip side of that is that man did just sign one of the biggest extensions in NBA history. If he's got tears, he can wipe them with $100 bills and be just fine. So, you don't feel too bad for him. And he also signed that knowing full well where this roster is and kind of what's going on. And I don't think he's the guy that's going to get too crazy and rock the boat on it and everything. He seems to be a guy that wants to be in Phoenix for his career. He got that little Kobe in him. He took after him a lot, and he kind of had the same mentality as far as a player, but I think he also has that kind of loyalty to a team and to a city that you saw kind of from Kobe, I feel like, too. He reminds me a lot of his mentality and approach does to Kobe. So I don't think that's going to be like too much of an issue. So this was just incredible moment right now for Phoenix, because this is the second largest buyout / wave, like dead money hit that a team has ever had. The Damian Lillard one is the largest one, which we just saw a few weeks ago, as that one ended up being just over 100. This one ends up being, almost 97 million. So not a whole lot different. And the previous one before that was like 40 million, 45 million. I mean, it was not anywhere near what these buyouts and the dead money that these two are going to basically have on their teams. But you had to do it. You had to get under that second apron, and they admit their mistakes. They are willing to accept what the pain of paying out those contracts and kind of what that is going to do over the next 5 years. But you had to do it, because if you didn't, you get Beal off the contract, or you get him off the books in 2 years, but then you would be in a repeater offense on the second apron, not just this year, probably next year as well. So it would have been 4 straight years, and you would immediately had those penalties kick in. And with 4 straight years, they would have been dealing with these penalties for 4 years straight after that, where they wouldn't have been able to make a bunch of their trades. Their draft picks wouldn't push, like the fines that you would have been getting hit with. It's because I might as well, like, the money that he's paying Beal would have been the same that he would have been getting hit with fines for his team being in the second apron again. What different, like, might as well, like, if you're going to lose the money either way, might as well lose it in a constructive way for the team. So this is great news for the Suns. This is great news for Phoenix fans. And it's good news for Bradley Beal. He gets a fresh start. He gets to go somewhere he wants to do. And that man's still getting $108 million total at the end of the day out of his 110. Pretty good. Granted, his 11 million is now going to be, in California taxes. So he's going to get about $6 out of that 11 million. But, it's the team he chose. It's where he wanted to go. So more power to him. This, I would think, would be the last big domino to fall this summer for Phoenix. There's other small ones that will continue to fall as they kind of round out this roster. The last, maybe potentially big piece would be if they can find a way to sign a good point guard at maybe a vet minimum. We're talking about We'll see if that can come to fruition. But other than that, it's going to be just tinkering with the roster and trying to find cheap deals, vet minimum deals, mid-level exception deals. Keep yourself under that second apron, and then just let these young guys go out there and play. Live with their mistakes, let them learn, and let Booker try and be a leader to them, because the last few years, Booker is as competitive as anybody and a good leader, but like when you got Durant too, there's a little bit of back and forth on who should be, leading the locker room. When you got Beal making $55 million, you ain't gonna listen to nobody really, or doesn't really have to at that point. So a little bit there, but you get those guys out of the building now. Nurkic is gone. Tyus Jones is gone. A lot of this roster now has been turned over, and you look at it, there's some talent there. There's some young guys. You got a chance to kind of have some talent out there as well. Are they going to be able to compete in the West? No. Can they make the play-in? Maybe. Maybe. The West is really, really good. But I think you're going to at least see them compete and be entertaining and fun, which is 3 things we did not say about last year's team. So this is good news for the fans. This is good news for the team, and it's good news for Beal. So let me know what y'all think. 5 years against the Cat. Going to be paying for this for a while right now, but like I said, I kind of feel like something they had to do, and at the end of the day, I think this is a very good situation and good news right now for the Suns.